Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. So here I'd like to introduce a very interesting small plant, and it looks exactly like a miniature palm tree. You can see here, you could easily think this was the world's smallest palm tree. Now this Lego man is the normal size of Lego man, it's not a giant one. You can see, for example, a ballpoint pen, and if I put my hand behind it as well. This is a normal size Lego man. So you can see this little palm tree here, it's really small. So I'll now zoom into the palm tree and I'll tell you a bit more about it and what this plant actually is. And as I say, it is a real plant. This isn't fake. This isn't like a plastic model or anything like that. This is actually a real plant that you can find in most of your gardens throughout the world. It's actually a very common plant, but because it's so small, you just never really notice it. But it's probably in your back garden, probably in the street where you live. It's just so small it goes undetected, but it makes this amazing little miniature palm tree effect. So here it is closer up. As you can see, it has these lovely kind of like leaves that hang down from a trunk. It really does look like a palm tree. I've got another small one here as well. Once you find one in your garden, you'll probably find loads of them. You can see there, it's got that lovely kind of like palm tree effect with like the stem and the leaves hanging down from it. So a very interesting plant. And what this actually is this is actually just the common liverwort. So a very common weed that a lot of people get in their gardens, but you don't always see this kind of palm tree effect on it. The common liverwort, the Latin name is Marchantia polymorpha, and as I say, you'll probably find it in most gardens throughout the world, in the temperate regions and also in the tropics. It grows normally as this really flat green looking leaf, and it just kind of sits on the ground and slowly spreads over compost. You quite often find it growing in the top of pots. It doesn't do well in very deep shade or competition from other plants, so you tend to find it on the top surface of compost and pots and places like that, or you find it in between paving slabs, places where other plants are getting trampled, whereas this plant is so small it can grow and doesn't really get affected by it. It does also prefer a damp location, but this example is actually growing in my driveway, which is gravel, and it's baked by the sun. So it is a very variable plant, you can find it all over the place. So what you're looking at here isn't the main part of the plant. The main part of the plant, as I say, is that flat leaf that kind of grows on the surface and slowly spreads. This is actually a bit like a flower, but the weird thing is with this plant is it's so far distantly related from the normal plants. It's not actually a flowering plant. It's in the same kind of group of plants as mosses and ferns, but even then it's not very closely related to mosses and ferns. It is quite an unusual thing. There's a lot of different types of liverworts. This is just a common one that you'll find around the place. So as I say, it doesn't technically have flowers, but this is the closest thing that it has to flowers. This here is the female version, so there's a male version and a female version of this plant. This plant comes either as a male plant or a female plant. Most plants are hermaphrodite and you get both male and female on the same plant. With this kind of plant though, you get individuals with a male or female. So this is the female one. This is the one that has the eggs, and which is again quite unusual. Most plants have seeds. This plant actually has eggs and sperms. It is, as I say, very strange. When you start going down to the very small scale, plants are completely different to plants you'd find normally, and in fact the male flower actually has sperm which swims through water, which is why this normally grows in wet locations, and the sperm actually swim up the trunk of these tiny little stalks of this palm tree. So again, a very unusual plant. Now this here, as I say, it's not actually a flower, it's got an unusual name. So what they have is gametophores, and they have like a male gametophore and a female gametophore. This is the female gametophore, and so this is called an archegonia. Again, very unusual plant, this one. So this is where the something akin to seeds. It's not seeds, it's where the spores are formed and released by the plant. So as I say, very different to nearly any other kind of plant, but it's similar to how ferns and mosses reproduce. So as I say, very unusual plant. So what I'll be doing with this plant is I'm going to make some time-lapse footage so you can see how it grows and those little palm trees grow up. And I'm also going to make a few different videos with this plant. Because it looks so much like a small palm tree, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a few little miniature kind of bonsai or penjing scenes using this, maybe making like a desert island or an oasis, anything that really has palm trees in real life, but just have it at a super small miniature scale.